Hi, I'm Frankmusik, and this is my piece for Sounds magazine. I was born in 1985. I was growing up on my mum's sort of 7-inch singles collection, which would have been anything from Depeche Mode to ABC, Bananarama, stuff like that. But it was all very similar in terms of electronic pop music at the time. I started making my music when I was 10 years ago, so when I was 17. Being a successful musician seemed impossible. When I found out that like Bassman Jacks just lived in South London, it was like, okay, if they can do it, I probably can. I had a very weird upbringing where I went to private school my whole life, but I wasn't rich. I had like scholarships, so I got to go to these great schools. So the rich kids didn't like me because they knew I come from a poor family, and they kind of felt like, well, you don't deserve to be here because my mummy and daddy are vets and doctors, and they work very hard to be where they are. I lived in a very poor area, and the poor kids didn't like me because they knew I got to go to a good school, and they didn't. So I didn't really fit in. So I've always been a loner, and so I've been just very sort of in my own world. And when people encroach upon my own world, I get very protective. I don't like people's opinions. It's like I don't ever tell anyone how to do their job, so I don't really appreciate anyone telling me how to do mine. And that's good and bad. You can offend a lot of people, and I'm very good at doing that. I've got a very sharp tongue when I need to have one, and I'm not afraid to use it. So I'll burn a lot of bridges, but equally make as many new ones too. Be the last song that I write. This will be the last song that... Most people would probably define a breakthrough moment as getting a record deal. That's probably like a big thing. But I think I haven't had my biggest breakthrough yet. I'm expecting that to happen in the next few years when I fully establish myself as an independent artist entirely. This will be my final sign. I left England 2 months after my first album, proper album came out, Complete Me, back in 2009. It was already then I kind of sensed that this whole major label thing wasn't for me. It was, the money was intoxicating, and you get fed a lot of things like about fame and this, that, and the other. But I kind of started to see through it, and the label and I weren't seeing eye to eye on everything. And I'm not discrediting them because they did offer me a huge opportunity. But like anything, like any relationship, it can be great at the beginning, but then the cracks start to show as you move through the relationship. There was no plan in America. So when people were saying, you're a sellout because you were going to America and this, that, and the other, it's like, I went there to just escape. I didn't go there to try and break America. I didn't have really any label support at the time to have even considered that as an option. So when I did get to America, I started talking with the US label, Cherry Tree, and Martin, offered, his support, and it was good. And it was the same thing. It started off good, and it just went, not good. So. My final song for you. I'm a very difficult person to get on with, and I'm a musician. I live a very odd lifestyle, and that comes out in my social anxieties all the time, and it's not for anyone else to put up with. I was way too open about my private life in interviews, and in a situation like this, I could just dump all my problems on you and I get to leave. I can tell you all the woes and issues that I had, and then just you print it, and whoever was causing me the problems, it's like, haha, now the whole world knows that you're an asshole. And that was very childish of me, but there's no book to tell you how to do this. Now, as I've got older, I've retracted that, and just I keep the things very separate now. That helps keep things simple. For you,
This will be my final song. Be my final.
We're in a culture now where, if you look at programs like The X Factor and The Voice, people are being duped into thinking that you only need to be a singer. Well, that's wrong, because actually you need to be able to write your own songs to make any money in this industry. That shows that there's a control shift here, which is, don't worry, we're gonna do everything for you, and you sign all these contracts, and we're gonna do all the work for you, so you don't have to. You're just gonna become famous. That's all you're here for, is to become famous, and we're gonna make all the money on what you're singing, but you're not going to really own any of it. I'm singer, writer, producer, beatboxer, blah 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 blah, and it seems to have only caused me problems in terms of how I functioned in a major label situation. You very quickly get branded as a jack of all trades and a master in none. The whole world wants me to do less instead of just do everything, because apparently people don't understand it when you do more. If everyone can do everything for themselves, then you don't need the labels. And that's what they don't want you to know.
The ink will penetrate the fibers held below.
It's interesting with Ellie because she asked people to stop talking about me in her interviews. So that would have been a very long time ago. Now, when it comes to Ellie, she's very good at being like a membrane where ideas can pass through her, and she reacts to that. She's not someone who's got like a solid, definitive way of doing things. She's very collaborative, and she's done great from that. I think that's basically a very good survival mechanism in this industry. Is as a lot of the general public say, reinventing yourself. And Ellie's kind of just meandered between lots of things that are fashionable, and that seems to have worked, and I wish her nothing but luck with that.
Now I look out my window and the doubts have arrived with greed.
I kind of basically had a year hiatus. I kind of went into a relationship in Los Angeles and kind of let that take over my life. I kind of lost confidence, I think, in myself. I think it was trying to realize that the label didn't define me. It was like, you've got this big contract with a big label. It's always something wonderful to say to people when you're like, oh, well, I'm signed to blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, we don't know who the fuck you are, but yeah, I'm signed to blah, blah, blah. In one way or the other, you either, get a job at Costco, move on, or you go back to university, move on, or you carry on doing it, the music, without the label support and without any media interest whatsoever, and be an artist. And luckily I had the resources to do that. I didn't need producers, I didn't need songwriters. And it was getting to the point where I could say to myself every morning, I could do it. So Between was basically, in short, an exercise in growing up and an exercise in seeing if I could do the same thing that I had to do with a label 3 years prior. And I did it.
This'll be my final sign.
I hope to, be making a viable career for myself in music. America is a place I feel I've got a lot of work to do, and I feel there's a lot of room for me there. I think when people are bored of all the oversaturated McDonald's-style electro dance floor bangers and stuff, there's going to be room for a sort of a deeper version of electronic music with a pop sensibility, which is what I feel I do. All in good time, I suppose, but more albums, more music, more touring, the usual.